Hello and welcome to Southeast Iowa Union Sports Talk Live, and we got things falling off the table already. How's it going, everybody? I'm Andy Krutzier. I'm here with Mr. Hunter Moeller.
Yep.
Repping Kirkwood. Shout out to
Didn't go there, but nice sweatshirt.
Didn't go to Kirkwood, but that was a nice sweatshirt. There were some Waco kids that were signing today. That Slayton Swords from KLJ was just texting me about. One of them's going to Kirkwood.
Yeah,
Ella Kissel going to Kirkwood, and a few other seniors sign. Watch out for the newspaper. We'll have some Waco seniors in that. Anyway, Nick Steffens here on the ones and twos, and this show basically serves as the pregame show for the state tournament, even though the state tournament's already began, because I will not be going back home after this.
Yep, you're going to be heading to Des Moines.
Yes, I'll be going to Wells Fargo Arena as Winfield Union girls they don't kick things off. They actually finish off the Class 1A. In fact, do they finish off the entire first round, I guess, then?
I think so.
1A the last to go. At 6:45 tonight against North Lynn. And why are they playing against North Lynn tonight, Hunter?
I think it's because they beat a tough North Mahaska team.
Yes, it was. Almost a week ago at this point. It was kind of an unlucky time for sports talk because we haven't talked about it yet because it happened on Thursday night.
Feels like it was so long ago.
It was supposed to happen on Wednesday night, so it was supposed to happen a week ago. But that game got rained out or iced out. Hopefully that doesn't happen tonight while I'm on my way. So we're going to start with Little Winfield. We've got to talk about New London. They obviously made state. Mount Pleasant and Fairfield got knocked out this week, and we got Wesleyan. So we got a basketball-laden show. I was at that game in Iowa City. By the way, I really like Iowa City West as a host.
Yeah, I love that. I like that. I think they have a perfect school for it.
Yeah, they do. The only problem is that they have a huge parking lot because they're Iowa City West.
Yeah.
So I parked at what I thought was premium, like first-class parking.
Little did you know you were clear on the other side.
Walked in. I walked in. There's clearly people going towards this entryway, and there's these people sitting at a desk. So I walk up, and I was like, hey, I'm here for one of the newspapers, the newspaper that covers Winfield. And they're like, oh, yeah? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, are you here for a basketball game? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, oh, this is a concert. This is the winter concert.
No.
You got to go outside and walk all the way around for the basketball game.
That's hilarious.
But once I got to the basketball game, I got to see a comeback victory, 52-47, Winfield Union over North Mahaska. We knew it was going to be close. Winfield's ranked 8th and North Mahaska 13th.
Yep.
And it was a tight one. Winfield started out red hot. So hot that it'll make you choke on what you're saying. I forget it was 11-3 or 11-4. Boom, 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 making every shot. Keely Malone hit a corner three-pointer to make it 11-3 or 4 or whatever. I think 11-4. I think it was a 7-point game. And the Winfield crowd, which was packed on their side, all wearing red, was going crazy. And Melina Epping, who's been killing it, had 8 points in the first 4 or 5 minutes. But she had 3 fouls in the first quarter.
And she's been huge for them as of late, too.
Yeah, I mean, when you say she makes a huge difference, you can say it, and then you can watch them play when she's out on the court, and then watch what happens when she was forced to sit for an entire quarter. And there was a big difference. Even before she got the third foul, North Mahaska kind of started to figure out. They've got this girl, Brecklin Schilling, who's a sophomore, who's tall, who handles the ball, who's quick, who was giving them some trouble. She scored 16 points on the day, but Winfield was at 15-13 after one, and then North Mahaska went on a huge run, held Winfield to 2 points in the second quarter. All of a sudden at halftime, in fact, it was 22-15. Those 2 points didn't come. I believe Brady Buffington had a layup at the end of maybe Keaton Townsley had a layup at the end of the first half. Otherwise, it would have been a shutout second quarter. And it kind of felt like they were in a daze a little bit. And then all of a sudden, third quarter came out, and everyone was on the court. Melina Epping was back, and it was like boom, boom, boom. Winfield took the lead, and it was back and forth all night long. I'm not sure you were following my tweets.
Yep.
But it was a wild one, and in fact, North Mahaska had a fourth quarter lead. Buffington made the eventual go-ahead layup with a few minutes left that was the end-all, and Winfield hit their free throws. Winfield was 15 for 20 from the free throw line. Made more at free throws than their opponent attempted. Do you ever have a coach say something like that?
Yeah, it's like, if you want to, I mean, that's a good, I think the saying was, if you, I guess have that stat, higher, the percentage of winning goes, way up. usually you win the game if you you shoot more free throws than the other team or whatever.
Yeah.
However, I can't remember the exact saying, but I do remember where you're going with it.
It was always on our sheet. Shoot more free throws, make more free throws than the opponent attempts.
Yep.
That was always one of our little things. And then it always said make stay at the bottom of the sheet, and that never happened for us. But pretty good numbers there. They only made 3 3-pointers on the night. It was all inside. So now they're off to their first state tournament since 1998. You want to guess where the current players were in 1998? For me, it was weirder to think about, but they were not alive, not even close to being alive.
It is kind of
5 years before they were alive.
Yeah,
even.
I feel like that's not like. I mean, it's a year after I was born, I guess. So,
Yeah.
So I guess it's been a while, and I don't feel that old. But I guess
you were born in 1997. I forget who I'm talking to over
Yeah.
here. Nick was born pretty much 99.
Oh, see.
Anyway, I've been feeling pretty old lately, and now it's not even helping. But I remember the first time that
Hey, you don't got me by that much, but
not too much, but 5 or 6 years. Well, how much do I have you? Are you 24, 25?
I'm gonna be 26 in May.
26? 6 years? 6, 7. I remember the first time that one of the high school kids, that I realized that were born after, I think on on a 9/11, and when my wife was talking, and she's like, oh yeah, we're gonna talk about it, and then they're all born afterwards, because up until that she'd always say do you remember where you were or whatever, and anyway,
It's like,
yeah,
I was
old.
born in 2003.
Yeah, everyone that we cover was born in the 2000s, which is wacky to think
Yeah.
about. But anyway,
Pretty wild.
but Mindy McCrate is a 2000 graduate of Winfield Mount Union, so she was around back then, and her first year coaching Winfield, taking them. That's really cool. And obviously, all the girls are talking about Mitch Wachs, who was their coach for not their coach, but the coach for 30 years.
Yeah.
Kind of led them to this point of they have 5 seniors, so this was their time to do it. And by the way, Melina Epping 24 points in that. Keaton Townsley 11, and Keely Malone had 8. So
Yeah, and looking at the run too, I think it's the perfect story. Because these seniors, the whole storyline was they never could get past Notre Dame. That's who always knocked them out, right?
Yep.
And it's
In
they
volleyball
finally,
and basketball.
yeah, and then they finally are able to kind of get it done in their senior year. It's almost like the perfect ending in regards for making the state tournament. Looking back to 1998, there's so many good storylines coming out of the Winfield girls season 2.
Yeah.
Just looking at it like that.
I harped on this last week, but they so they've been good enough to go to state the last 2 years also.
Yeah.
Especially 2 years ago when a lot of their siblings were playing. In fact, pretty much every single girl who gets playing time now has an older sibling that played. But they went undefeated, and they had Notre Dame as their regional semifinal team. This is a team that had a few of these. Pretty much all the seniors now played, but they also had Kendall Townsley and Jenna Buffington,
Yep.
and those girls are older than these girls. Joby Malone, who graduated last year, and they went undefeated, so they got a host, and they played Notre Dame. Well, Notre Dame had a few girls that, because of COVID-19, they couldn't play in Illinois, and they had to play they transferred over to Iowa so they could play sports. And they couldn't play right away.
Yep.
And so Notre Dame lost some games at the beginning of the year. And so that rigged the bracket a little bit to where Notre Dame wasn't very highly
yeah.
thought of as they should have been. And so then Winfield just got unlucky with having a super, super talented team be there, really when they shouldn't have been playing possibly at all in the entire regionals. So they've been a very unlucky team. And this year they still had a tough road.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at North Mahaska, they won their other games by 20 and
Quite
30 points.
Quite a lot, yeah.
And Winfield had to play a Notre Dame team that probably the caliber of kind of a state tournament team too. So maybe they'll sharpen them up for tonight against North Lynn,
Yeah.
who is a wagon.
Yeah. I mean, looking at their stats, obviously, they like to shoot the 3 ball. I mean, they have 100, almost 200, well, not 200, almost 150 more threes or something like that.
Yeah, than
the
Winfield
Wolves.
does.
And it's kind of like looking at 2 different teams. And
It is.
they like to shoot the ball. Winfield, not so much shooting from outside, can shoot it from outside, but, they have some girls that can hang and bang down low. So they kind of, prefer that, get the easier shot down low. But they're going to have to find a way to, stop the Northland 3 ball. And obviously, Northland's been just absolutely dominating opponents. I think their one loss is to Mount Vernon, I think.
Yeah, so
and Mount Vernon's with 12 and number 12 in 3A, and Mount Vernon, I think, lost to Solon, who's ranked number 2 in 3A by 1 point in the postseason, knocked them out. So the Lynx are going to be good. You just they got to find a way to kind of shut them down and take them out of their own game.
One thing you hope for, well, I'll say one thing that's good and one thing that's bad. One thing that you hope for when you play a state tournament game is that you're the better team inside, because it's harder to shoot threes when you're at state. There's all those lines because there's the college line and the pro line.
Especially the depth perception too. It's like usually you have a wall like right behind your basket, and it's like, oh, there's just a bunch of open space back there. So it does kind of take some getting used to get used to that. And
it's a low scoring game usually at state, and so usually inside points are what matter, but also what matter are turnovers. Yep. And Winfield's good at forcing turnovers, but Northland is one of the best at forcing turnovers. Yep. They've like all the girls when I was doing the preview story, like the steal numbers were off the charts, and so 6:45. And they will play the winner of Woodbine and New Alfonda, probably New Alfonda if they win. New Alfonda's number 2, so I'll be there for a little bit of that game. So 6:45. It's on. Obviously, you follow our Twitter at Union Sports page for coverage of this, but also if you want to watch it live and you're not going, it's just on YouTube.
Yep, you can search it.
A Girls High School Association does a great job with YouTube.
Yeah.
The boys,
it's a little tougher. I wish they would just do YouTube.
They have the Sportsnet, which is nice, and when it's live, you can watch it. But once it's over, you can't go back and watch it unless you pay them however much money for a subscription. Mm-hmm. So shout out to the Girls Union; they did a good job, and hopefully they let me in today because I can't find my updated pass. I've got my old one, and I'm on the list.
Right.
But maybe I'll have to just break in. Anyway.
Just show them, pull up one of your stories and be like, here's my license. Look, I'm Andy Kretzinger. Here's my.
Oh, no, I'm not. Those people are like, where's your pass? And I'll be like, this is my pass right here.
Oh, man.
Just kidding. All right, we're going to talk about New London. New London's a team that you've seen a little more than me, but I saw them in the sub-state final the other night. And, much like Winfield, when you say, like, it was a long time coming for the Winfield kids to get there, New London's got a couple of kids who've been the stars of the team freshman year. How cool is it that among everyone, that Blaze Porter and Cade Benjamin get to go, Rylan Martin, who's been playing a little bit more the last couple of years, those are the 3 seniors, and New London 70-69 over Marquette Catholic. Not an easy game.
Yeah, not an easy game at all. What's crazy about this team is, like, looking back to last year and the previous years, is like they had so much more depth on their teams. And it seemed like they always got knocked out by, every other team always knocked each other out. You know what I mean?
Yes, them,
Waco, like last year, we thought, Waco and New London, had the best shot to go. And then, Waco beats New London, and then, Waco loses to Danville. And it's just crazy because, it seems like every team we cover, the last, at least the past, 3 years here, has been knocked out by one another, and then the one team we don't cover ends up making it.
Yeah.
And this year, obviously, they play about six guys, most of the time. And I mean, they've been playing, I would say, probably their best ball here in the postseason by far. Just looking at the regular season, I did that story today about how their kind of regular season went, and I think by far they've kind of brought it to another level, right? Right now, these last five, 6, I think they've won almost 8-9 straight.
They've won a lot of games in a row at this point. I think West Burlington might have been their last loss. Maybe the at West Burlington game a while back, or Waco, because they played those two teams pretty close together.
Mm-hmm. It was they lost back-to-back games. They lost back-to-back games when Benjamin got injured.
That's right.
They beat Mediapolis after that. And then they lost to Notre Dame by pretty handily.
By a lot, yeah.
And then they lost to West Burlington.
Yeah.
And then they haven't lost since.
Yeah, so they're back healthy. I think the reason that they're winning so much now is because, obviously Porter and Benjamin have been playing a lot, but the other guys, like Rylan and Leo and Richie, that didn't play as much last year, now have the experience of playing every day, and I think that they just probably flow better. Mm-hmm. It's hard when you have over half of your starting lineup that you have to replace.
I mean, because if you look at the team last year, like Martin got in, Brendan got in a little bit, but like those guys weren't main,
they had that
I guess
senior
playmakers
class
coming off the team, and obviously the strong senior class and all that. But I think they've come along a lot, and looking at their team, obviously a lot. Blaze and Kay get a lot of attention, but the other guys have been stepping up too. Obviously, I think you have to test this, but Rylan had a great game from outside the last one.
Yeah, 2 huge threes.
Leo can pretty much do it all. And then Richie can stroke it two from deep, and they just all been playing pretty well together.
it's a well set up team because you have shooters around your stars. And by the way, I mentioned it was 76 now as an overtime game, and it was at the end of the first overtime or at the end of the regulation. Both teams had a chance to win it, but Marquette Catholic, who was a really exciting team to watch, they pressed, they were quick, and one of their best players had 2 shots to win it.
Yep.
Once it was a little contested floater or a 2-pointer that rimmed out, might have got some backboard, but then he got the offensive rebound, tried to tip it in, and it just rolled off the rim. That could have sunk him at the buzzer.
Yeah, and then looking at OT, obviously. Well, I guess leading up to that point in regulation, or was it in regulation or overtime, where there were probably 2 of the biggest points in the game. You said the Cade Benjamin steal and dunk, and then the Blaze Porter. I think was that an OT where
that was fourth.
Blaze got the steal and won. That was huge too.
They were down with about 4 minutes left. They were down 2 without the ball. Marquette had the ball. And you can kind of feel it when they're down in a game like that. Like, a couple more bad things happen, and this thing is going south. And Cade stepped in and got a steal, and then a steal that turned into a run-out dunk, the only dunk of the game. Of course, was a huge dunk because it was Benjamin being a wide open dunks. They're pretty thunderous. And then and then they went back down 3 without the ball with only a couple minutes left, and Blaze stole a pass right about half court, and then turned it into an and one situation. Got fouled, made the layup, made the free throw, and I believe those might have been the last points of the overtime. Or of the regulation. In overtime, New London didn't really control it, but they looked like the better team. Once it got to that point, it was a little scary because Blaze got his 4th foul, but New London was probably the better team for the entirety of overtime, even though it was a close overtime.
Yeah, and obviously they've had some close finishes. I mean, I guess you could say it's good. Obviously, came down to the wire against Waco, and Waco had a chance to win that.
Knocked some stuff out the table.
That ball fell their way too. I mean, obviously it's got to be helping them to be in these close games and being able to pull them out. And I mean, obviously it's all you can say, oh, they missed the shot for a chance to win or whatever, but it's part of the game. You know what I mean? And obviously, it was the 1-point win against Waco. Held off Winfield late without one of their best players, and Blaze, and then or Winfield, I think I said Waco again, but Winfield.
Yep, you said Winfield.
And then obviously this one here. So
I would also say that they also have been in a lot of close games in like the last 4 years. It's not even just this year, but I mean, I was watching that game remembering another postseason game when Porter and Benjamin were freshmen, where they played Waco, and Porter hit all the shots in that one. That was another really close game. They played overtime. I mean, these guys have. And I mean, even Bruce Bryant, Coach Bryant Porter, he's coached in so many really, really close games, so they knew what it was like. And then Bryant said, Coach Porter said something after the game that a lot of these New London kids have won state championships in track or baseball, and so he's like, well, we're not afraid to lose. We've been in these situations in other sports, and so I think that helps. By the way, the team that they're playing is Grandview Christian, who
number one in the state pretty much all season long.
Yeah, pretty much have held that number one. They didn't win the state championship last year, but they've held that number one ranking for like 3 years now, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they lost at North Lynn, but needless to say, it's going to be a heavy task for the Tigers in this one. A height advantage. We've talked about this is going to the Thunder in this one. Obviously they had a kid, Daniel Talibo, or how do we say his name?
That's their big center.
Yeah, he's 7 foot tall. I know they have another kid who's 6'9", and then their next shortest kid, next tallest kid is 6'5".
Their shorty is about 6'5".
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure both their starting guards are 6 foot, 6'1".
Yeah, they're
they're tall team,
and they've creamed everybody.
Yeah, I forgot I was telling you about it. Let's see. Yeah, they beat Earlham. In first round, 86-38, beat Lennox 94-47, and beat ACGC to make the state tournament 106-47. So they've been pretty dominant, to say the least.
Yeah, they're the favorites. But I mean, both of our teams are playing. New London's playing the favorite in Class 1A. That's the number 1 versus number 8 seed, and then back to even Winfield. I'd say that Bishop Garrigan's definitely the favorite in that girls bracket. They're dominating somebody right now as we speak, but there were 2 or 3 teams in 1A that are very, very, very stacked teams. So
have you seen the back of the New London State shirts.
I did, didn't
Dude,
they? It said
were
something
sick.
about David and Goliath.
It said David was a 40-point underdog against Goliath.
Yeah,
I was like, that's so
I forget
clever.
they quoted him now. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't remember who said it. I was like, oh, that's funny.
And one thing I will say is, as good as Grandview Christian is, playing a Class 1A 8 seed, New London has way more talent than a normal Class 1A 8 seed, just as far as straight up talent and accolades. I mean, they've got a kid that's going to go to a really good D2 school. They've got a Division I track athlete. They've got even though a lot of the other kids are new, and in fact, Rylan Martin said in his interview, he's like, "I'm not a basketball player," which is just kind of a funny thing to say.
I run track or whatever.
But the amount of talent that New London has is pretty staggering for an 8 seed. So we'll see.
And I think they're going into it as, we're just going to leave it all out on the floor. We know everybody's counting against us kind of thing, So
it's games that would be blowouts on a regular court have a tendency to be a little different at state. It's just a different environment. So that's for both of them, because obviously both of our teams that are up there are not favored, but here we go. So what they play at 10:45 on what?
10:45 on Monday. Yep.
Perfect. So first game. So
first game kicking off the state tournament.
Yep. Winfield plays the last 1A game of the last game of the first round of the girls, and New London plays, and hopefully they'll both play in the last game of both, because that would be the championship.
Right.
All right. Anyway, we are going to take a little commercial break. I've seen Nick's finger on the commercial button over there. It's just a big button that says commercial, giant. And he's been waiting to click it. So we're gonna go. Give us about 2 minutes, and we'll talk about a little bit of big school basketball. A couple of losses last week.
Federation Bank is a locally owned bank providing award-winning customer service. We believe that we are more than just a federation of banks, but a federation of communities, serving Brighton, Richland, Wellman, and Washington, Iowa. Federation Bank's highly skilled staff is here to make sure you are able to accomplish your personal and professional goals, whatever they may be. Federation Bank, your family bank.
Hospice isn't a place, it's a type of care that focuses on living. Servicing a 7-county area, the Hospice of Washington County staff of nurses, social work, hospice aides, spiritual and grief support, volunteers, music and massage therapists are able to provide free end-of-life care where the patient lives. We write wills, give consent for organ donation, but rarely is there a plan for what we would want the final phase of our lives. At Hospice of Washington County, we encourage our patients to be in charge of their healthcare decisions while maintaining quality of life.
At the Capper Auto Group, we put our customers' needs first and understand that everyone is as different as the vehicle they select. We offer new Ford, Chevrolet, Buick, GMC, Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, and Ram vehicles in a friendly environment that puts you in the driver's seat. When it comes to service, we maintain factory-trained technicians and competitive pricing. The Capper Auto Group still believes that service after the sale provides the best customer experience. Come see the Capper experience for yourself.
Tammy takes the time and has the personal interest in each one of us. I don't worry about what's going to happen because I know my policy is taken care of.
She pulls what I need and puts it together, which is the program I get from her.
Every year she calls around September or so and says, there's changes again, and I'm going to do the best thing for you. It's been perfect. She does a great job.
We are back. Southeast Iowa Union Sports Talk live on Washington Live's YouTube, Facebook, and Spotify, and Mount Pleasant Live's Facebook, and Fairfield Live's Facebook. So if you haven't checked us out before and are just got the state tournament fever, they missed a lot of shows so far that they can go back and watch. But make sure to share the stuff, and we're going to have some more fun stuff here throughout March, even though we are waiting on spring sports. We had a little bit of track. Washington track went out to the Iowa games the other day, but we're waiting on spring sports. After these basketball games are over, we're going to have plenty of stuff. So, and happy March, everybody, by the way. It's the best month because of the tournament.
March.
March
Madness.
Remind me next week, I had an idea for a March Madness bet between the three of us.
You know what's great? Is when because it's like one of those, kind of like the Olympics. During that time, you get off work, you just go home, flip on the TV. There's always something going on.
Yeah.
There's always some sort of event or game or whatever.
Anytime that sports or anything, like, I just like something to occupy my time,
Yeah.
And so that just occupies that brain space a little bit. It's like, oh, what am I doing at 1 o'clock? Oh, there's a game at 1 o'clock. So it's really, really, it's just the best month. It's the best month. That's what it is. And we got a little more. What was the month we just got out of? February madness. Because we had some tournament basketball. We're going to jump to the big schools. We
Yep.
had a little less good news on the big
Right,
school
right.
side. We had two. As of last week, we had two teams left: Mount Pleasant and Fairfield. And you were at the Mount Pleasant game where the short-handed Panthers were done
Yep.
in by the Solon Spartans. How'd that turn out?
Yeah, Solon, advances and moved on. Well, I guess their run came in last night against Newton, but Solon defeated Mount Pleasant 49-36. It was really pretty. It was a close game for the most part through one half. But the story of the night for the Panthers was just lit on the basket. They just had trouble scoring the ball. They had 4 points. Mount Pleasant led 4-3. I guess both teams kind of had it lit on the basket in the first quarter, but Mount Pleasant led 4-3 after one. And then it was 19-12 in favor of the Spartans after two. Aiden Ashton had all of Mount Pleasant's, Carter Amos had 2 of the 12, but Aiden Ashton had
10 points in the third.
Yeah, 10 points to start the third at the half there. It was, tight knit once again through the third quarter. The Panthers were down 30-23. They came back a little bit in the right at the start of the fourth. Ashton, hit a 2, and then 2 big baskets, back-to-back buckets, lay-ins for Amos brought the Panthers within 3 with about 4 minutes to go. But they only scored 4 more points the rest of the way out, and Solon just kind of rode the wave to victory and advance. And so tough one for the Panthers there. Obviously, they were without leading scorer. Peyton Hagen still dealing with that injury. Ashton ended up finishing with 18 in that one. Amos 10 and Owen Van Sickle 4. So those are the the seniors that we see on the floor the majority of the time. So they end their career in the I guess maroon and yellow or gold or whatever.
Maroon and gold. Yeah, it's maroon.
and gold.
I'm colorblind, but I've been told it's maroon and gold.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thinking back to Mount Pleasant, obviously, like you lose your top player, your top scorer. Even if you lose them at the beginning of the year, you have a very shortened chance of making the state tournament. But if you lose them at the end of the year, like they did, like you have to just completely redo your offense. I mean, he's the guy who handles the ball and shoots it about half the time. So that was tough. And we could see that Solon was in the game against Newton on last night up until the end of the third quarter. So that shows that Mount Pleasant was close.
And Solon's got some, they got some athletes. They're pretty long. They're pretty physical, kind of football guys. You know what I mean? And I think
all
they're
juniors, so they'll be back next year.
Yeah, I think their length played a big part. It was kind of tough for the Panthers around the perimeter and things like that. And it was just they got inside a few times, and they were okay. Carter Ames did a great job of hanging it down low. I think he finished perfect 5 for 5 down low, up through contact. But they just couldn't get their outside going. Ashton got to the paint a lot. And Solon kind of focused in on that inside defense in the second half, and like I said, that kind of first half shooting lit on the basket just kind of was the difference in this one.
Yeah, that's tough. And next year, next year the Panthers, they lose Van Sickle, Amos, Ashton, Chris Ewald, they lose.
Yeah,
so they lose a good amount of seniors, but they'll still have first of all they'll have the tallest kids. Probably
Stroud,
in the conference with
Lang.
Stroud and Lang, and they'll have Higgins back for one more year. So they're set up in a pretty good spot.
And you can kind of see who's going to be on the floor for them a lot too. Drake Anderson and
Christian Stacy.
Christian Stacy.
Yeah,
those guys played a lot too.
They are not short on talent coming into next year, but obviously you never know how good your team's going to be. It's a whole 9 months out before the start of the next season, so always tough to lose. But we had another team in the sub-state tournament. This is, by the way, 3A sub-state 6. These are semifinals, and Newton was playing against Fairfield, and Fairfield was red hot coming in, and something in the first quarter just kind of, at least defensively, they cooled off a little bit because Newton, who's headed off to the state tournament, and will be getting the seeds are probably out, but they're getting a really good seed.
Yep. They're rated number 6, I believe.
6, so 72-52 Newton over Fairfield, which was in Newton, that's a little ways for the old Trojans to drive. That was a 23-12 game at the end of the first quarter, 40-26 at halftime, 58-40 after 3 quarters, and then 14-12 Newton outscored Fairfield. So they just couldn't quite get back. They got down double digits early, and they couldn't get any run going where they could
any run was
put a
kind
little
of
spook into them. Yeah,
and you can kind of see it, looking at the scoring by each quarter. I mean, Fairfield's not losing the quarters by a lot.
Yeah.
Just looking at that, the first one ended up being the big difference in the game. You know what I mean? And another thing, we kind of talked about is, Newton did a fantastic job shutting down Max Wheaton, obviously.
Yeah, well, they have a big kid.
Yeah, big
kid.
Big kid down low themselves and that Cole Ploman kid. Mm-hmm. And, he kind of was able to shut down Wheaton in that one. Obviously, J.J. Lane, great game to end his career.
Yeah, 27 points.
Tate Allen 9 and Riley Perkins 5, and Wheaton finished with 3 in that one. But just a tough matchup for the Trojans. Obviously, Newton has some great guards too, and then as you mentioned, the big kid down low. So
Newton's sank 9 threes in that game.
Yeah,
it's hard to win when your opponent hits 9 threes. They also shot over 50%. So that's tough. And of course, Newton was all seniors basically. Right. One of the teams that was supposed to get there this year. I mean, Fairfield had a bunch of seniors too, though. So it's a tough senior class for them to lose.
Yeah.
Next year there will be a lot more minutes and a lot more shots for guys like Riley Perkins and Sam Wheaton, and so that will be Cooper Polonsky will get a lot more shots. So it'll be a totally different Fairfield team when we turn the clock back around to the winter next year.
That's kind of crazy to think about.
It is.
The kids we're used to seeing, ball out for these teams are going to be gone.
Well, it's kind of like the Fairfield girls this year. They had the kids that graduated for them last year were players since they were freshmen. So kind of like what it'll be for Winfield next year. But anyway, so we are out of big school teams. It is spring sports season in Fairfield, Washington, and Mount Pleasant.
Yep.
And it's only the little guys. Well, it's the little guys, and it's the bigger guys and girls, because the Iowa Wesleyan teams, we're going to talk about them after this commercial break. So Wesleyan fans, I know you want to hear about your national tournament berths, and we will in 2 minutes.
Protection is important, especially when you're talking about your dreams, which is why we're going to keep you covered with plans that can save you up to 23% when you bundle your home and auto. That's protection.
Family owned and operated by Andy and Sarah Ross, Ross Auto has been your vehicle repair and maintenance headquarters since 1935. We specialize in all makes of cars and light-duty trucks. With our variety of available services, let us help you keep rolling and your vehicle operating efficiently. Services include general auto repair, alignments, brakes, fuel injection, and more. Schedule your appointment today at 319-653-5656. That's 319-653-5656.
We're back. I was yawning right before we came back, so anybody has some good song ideas to get me back pumped for this drive to Des Moines after this show, send them in the comments or something. We are back, and we're going to talk a little Iowa Wesleyan basketball. It was a big weekend for Iowa Wesleyan basketball. They were at the Continental Athletic Conference tournament, the last CHC tournament that Iowa Wesleyan will have to worry about because they're moving to the AMC next year. Let's see. Should we talk about the women or men first? Because it's the same story both ways. Let's go women because this is second in a row.
Yep.
The Iowa Wesleyan joined the CAC in basketball at the beginning of last year, and they lost 0 women's basketball games the entire way through. They smoked the field last year basically. Now no one was touching them except Haskell Indian Nations a little bit last year. And then this year, a couple teams were a little closer, including Haskell.
Yep.
And after 2 dominating wins in the quarters and the semis, Iowa Wesleyan 64, Haskell Indian Nations 59 in the championship game. So Wesleyan, once again, undefeated in the conference and to the national tournament for the second straight time since Steve Williamson came back to the school last year.
It's pretty crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Well, yeah, it is. It's kind of crazy that I've been covering them enough to remember. I covered Steve Williamson, and then he left for a while.
Then he's like, oh, he's back.
Now he's here. We go right back. It was like the clock turned back around. Now he's back and winning and going to the national tournament. And he's got a really good squad. I really wonder what kind of seed they're going to get. But right after Brittany West last year dominated the tournament here, or not here, but in Mount Pleasant. Isabel West, 25-12 to lead the way. Kyla Moore, 14, and Brianna Wendland, who had a great tournament. In fact, a really good first game, had 11 points for them. So same old names as usual.
Yeah, really nice showing in that game against Haskell. Obviously went, a little bit of scare in the end, but
Haskell, they were up 12-0.
Yeah, Iowa Wesleyan jumped out to a 12-0 lead, and I believe the largest lead that it got was probably 11 about like 2 minutes later, and then the rest of the game it was single digits or less. And I think, and if I remember right, in the final 4 or 5 minutes of that fourth quarter, Haskell had it at 1, and the Tigers were able to kind of just hold on in the end and win at the line.
Yeah,
late,
pull away. Just there were parts towards the end of that game I was watching online where it did get a little bit scary, and now there are a lot. I don't know if they would have got in if they would have lost Wesleyan. They're not ranked.
Yep.
The men, who we'll talk about in a second, they were ranked and playing a ranked team. So if they lost, it wasn't like
they're pretty high ranked.
Well, they were going to get in anyway because 2 teams get in the conference tournament. So what am I even talking about?
Yeah.
But the semifinal games were a little scary like that for both teams. But in the final, it might spell the end of this rivalry for Iowa Wesleyan and Haskell women's basketball because they've had some really good battles. Unless Haskell joins the AMC, maybe, hint, hint. The next couple of years, let's say they're looking. Anyway, yeah. So they're back, and they're going to find out who they play
Thursday
tomorrow night.
Yep.
Yes, we'll have a watch party tomorrow night. 6 o'clock, I believe, is the show for the women's.
Yep.
7 o'clock for the men's, who beat Florida College. Their little nemesis.
Little revenge.
Oh, yeah, a little revenge. Actually, a lot of revenge because last year at Mount Pleasant, Iowa Wesleyan played Florida College in the semifinal, which is to get to the national tournament because the top 2 make it. And they gave them a pretty darn good game, probably the best game they played all year, last game under Alex Huseman. And now this year, first year under Jordan Ashton, go into nationals after 2 really close games before that, including they needed a game winner by Henry Shannon in the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
They end up beating Florida College 70-66 in the championship. So that's number 23 ranked Wesleyan, 14th ranked Florida College. So do the math on that a little bit. They're going to get probably a top 20 seed, I'd guess. So probably 4 or 5.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge win. Obviously, they played them really close earlier in the year. I can't remember that. Wasn't
I think
that,
they lost
that,
at a buzzer beater.
Buzzer beater with a
Buzzer beater 3, I believe. Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously for Iowa Wesleyan, obviously what a run they've had this year. Usually
run.
2 losses?
They've only lost 2 games. They've only lost 2 games the entire year, and one is the very first game of the year.
Yeah.
And then one was
the
Florida
other
College,
was,
who they just beat.
Yep.
So if you're looking for a dangerous team in March, I mean,
yeah.
They did. The CAC tournament was no joke this year.
Yeah, and they beat William Penn, who's rated 7th.
Yeah,
right
that's
now?
true. They beat William Penn. They beat pretty much every Iowa team, obviously. That they've went against. I am very interested to see who they would throw Wesleyan against.
I know
because there are a lot of local Iowa teams that they could be playing. William Penn could be a tournament, team that they could play. Let's say if they would have lost this, I could have seen it being like a 3 and a 6 because I think William Penn's maybe ranked 8th or 9th.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to play Iowa Wesleyan though.
I wouldn't want to play Iowa Wesleyan. I don't know how the hosting stuff works for that because if they get a 4 seed, would they have a chance to host? Because it's usually a quad, right? There's 4 teams per site.
Yeah.
So that possibly mean that Wesleyan could host a 4-5, 4. How does it go? 4-13, 5-12.
I think
matchup?
so.
Speculate.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool,
fun.
wouldn't it?
Last year the women went to Morningside, which is. I remember when they went, I was like, oh, maybe we'll be able to afford the gas money for that because it's in Iowa.
Yeah.
It's like 6 hours away in Iowa.
Right.
It's very interesting to see where they're going to go. I can tell you that both teams will have a shot because both teams have had a super good year. And last year Wesleyan was kind of punished on the women's side for not a lot of good teams in that conference, and they got like a 15 seed, and then they played a really, really good game, didn't win. but they showed that they probably should have been a better seed. So men's side, as I said, 4-5, and yeah.
Well, I think
Jacoby Jones, by the way, player of the year, tournament player of the year. So awesome.
Yeah, great performance by him, especially. I can't remember what he had in that first game, but looking at Iowa Wesleyan this year, I feel like they just have so many different guys that every night it seems like there's a different guy. Putting up 25 or whatever. Joey Brown played phenomenal too, and
Joey Brown is fantastic. He had 19 in the final game. Hakeem Adunzi had 17 and a huge 3, and then Henry Shannon ended up with 10. I said Henry Shannon had the game winner in the quarterfinals where they almost got upset.
Yeah, and that was a crazy play too. They inbounded the ball, and he just kind of ran down court.
He ran down. He tipped it over. It kind of reminded me of the thing that Cam Buffington did at the game you were at. And he tipped it and laid it up right at the buzzer. And before that, the team they were playing, which was that Washington Adventist, or was that who did they play that first game?
Haskell?
Oh, that was Haskell. Yeah, that was Haskell men. The Haskell men had the ball, tie game, chance to win it, and Jacoby Jones basically ran up and forced a tie with 2 seconds left.
Yeah, he got the jump ball, and then that was crazy.
That was very exciting. That was a super exciting tournament. The men had to win. That was 67-65 in the quarters. And then they beat Washington Adventist 53-49. So they didn't have one have one blowout in the whole tournament. So hopefully that'll help them when they come out with the bracket. And as I said, I think the women's show's at 6:00 on Thursday. Men's is at 7. And
yeah.
And then
exciting time to be a Iowa Wesleyan basketball player.
That's right. And exciting. It's a good time to be a Tiger in general, because women's wrestling was at the Heart of America Championship in Oski, and I think they got second.
Yeah, they finished second behind Grandview, which I think is the second-rated team in the country in the NAIA. The Tigers finished second, as you said, 148.5 points. On the day, 2 champions on the day. Obviously, Adago Nwamchukwu. Hope I said her name right, or hopefully close to right.
Yep.
She's a back-to-back champion at 136. Obviously, she was the number 1 rated 136-pounder
pretty much just rolled 2 years. Through the 136-pound class.
Yes. And then Mia Palumbo at 109 repeated as the champion. So those two obviously had great showings. And then Elena Sunland, Faith Cole, Isabel Hawley, and America Lopez all were second-place finishers. Let me go down here. And then Joanne Vanderwood and Destiny Campbell both had to wrestle each other for the third-place match. So they went 3rd and 4th, with Vanderwood taking 3rd and Campbell taking 4th at 130. Sydney Manos, Grace Gray finished 5th and 6th. Those two wrestled each other at 191 in the 5th-place match. And Nadia Abjanokovic, probably messed her name up, but
that's good. That's
she finished 6th at 143. Zoe Smith was a 6th-place finisher at 123 for the Tigers. So pretty nice showing for the Tigers. Obviously, back-to-back champions, and their team is, I can't remember what the highest they've been rated on the season. It was like not 10th or 12th.
I think they've been top 10. I think maybe they were the 8th at one point.
Yeah.
Either way, they're going to the national championships in Jamestown, North Dakota. That's the 10th and the 11th of March. So I'm sure they'll send some people right up to the top of those brackets. So.
Yeah, and I don't know if we mentioned on the last show about the boys.
They got 10th, right?
Yeah, they finished 10th, but they have one national qualifier. Formerly Columbus WMU wrestled Lane Scorpill is heading to nationals.
Scorpill, he's even a, am I right that he's a Morningside kid originally?
I think so. I think he went to Winfield.
Yeah, he did go to Winfield, but I forget if he's one of the Morningside kids that come over. It seems like Columbus WMU, they should almost just add Morning Sun back to that name, because there's so many Morning Sun kids that go through that. So yeah, that was his freshman year that he's going to nationals.
Yeah,
so that's really
pretty cool.
And he was, obviously we covered him at state and stuff the last handful of years.
And I believe he was wrestling 126, I think.
I used to know her off the top of my head. Nowadays,
yeah,
all the winter sports slowly filter out of my brain, and then try and make. I had to do a track story the other day, and so then it's like 4, and I'm like, what are these numbers? And I have to remember.
Oh yeah, we're writing about track,
spring sports and stuff. But yeah, so exciting times. Plenty of winter sports still going on if you think about it. Here at the beginning of March. Stay tuned to our Twitter tonight at Union Sports page.
Andy will have you covered.
I'll have you covered, hopefully, because I'm sure I'll get plenty of internet in Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo, you don't have to worry about it.
Right.
For Winfield at Union girls versus North Lynn. And then on Monday, so by the time we talk again, we're going to have not only that, but we will have,
we'll have New
Wesleyan's
London.
brackets out.
Yep.
And
New London's game complete next time we see you.
complete, and Wesleyan won't have played yet because I think they start on Thursday.
Yep, I think so.
So, yeah. So thank you for watching Southeast Iowa Union Sports Talk. Say hi to me if you see me in Des Moines today.
Yep.
And for Nick Steffens and Hunter Moeller.
Will we see you?
See ya next week.